My best friend started calling my parents, mom and dad, and signing notes as your good daughter while trying to replace me in my own family. When we got a restraining order, she broke into our house at midnight, saying she had to protect us, then sent my 7-year-old brother a birthday card warning that real sisters are forever, and the order expired in 6 months. She finally got arrested, trying to kidnap him from school with her hair dyed like mine, screaming that we'd stolen her family. My best friend Aubrey started off like a stray cat you feed once, grateful, sweet, and just happy to be included. By the end, she was more like a hermit crab trying to evict me from my own shell so she could move in and redecorate. Aubrey's home life was rougher than gas station toilet paper. Divorced parents, dad who ghosted harder than my Tinder matches, mom who spent her days married to vodka bottles, and her nights using Aubrey as an emotional punching bag. When my mom hugged her after she bombed her SATs, Aubrey looked at her like she'd just discovered fire, started staying for dinner, helping with dishes, basically auditioning for the role of daughter 2.0. I tried to be there for her, set up movie nights, just us two, invited her to hang with my other friends, even suggested she join my volunteer group, but she only wanted my family. She became our unpaid intern, tutoring my little brother Noah in math, reorganizing our garage, remembering my dad's lactose intolerance better than he did, started copying my laugh badly, it sounded like a seal with bronchitis, my handwriting, she even bought the same deodorant. Then things got creepy. She made these scrapbooks that would make Pinterest weep with envy. My parents ate it up like free samples at Costco, constantly praising her. Why can't you be more like Aubrey? Became their greatest hit. Then things got weird, like finding your teacher's OnlyFans weird. Aubrey started forgetting to tell me about plans, suggesting I didn't appreciate my parents enough. When I gently asked for some family-only time, she sobbed that I was just like everyone else who abandoned her. My parents felt so guilty. They invited her to our weekly dinners permanently. She told my mom about my secret boyfriend Ben, spinning it as concern, while crying those crocodile tears that could fill a swimming pool. She started calling my parents mom and dad, changed her Instagram handle to include our last name like she'd been drafted to our family team. She'd show up during my parents' date nights, mascara strategically smeared, claiming her mom had said something unforgivable. My parents never asked what, they just set another plate. The worst thing she did to my family was manipulate Noah into thinking I was plotting to ship him off to military school. She convinced him to lend her his house key for emergencies, then used that key to let herself in our house to do our laundry. Finding my mom's underwear folded in my drawer was a horror movie I didn't sign up for. She left notes everywhere and signed, your other daughter. They said things like, made dad's favorite casserole for tomorrow, love, your good daughter, and organized mom's closet by color, something Sarah never does. I could tell my dad was a little weirded out, but my mom insisted it was only natural, and Aubrey's way of showing love. The near catastrophe came at Thanksgiving. Aubrey gave a toast about how family isn't blood, it's choice, while staring directly at me. Later, she pulled my parents aside with concerns about my mental health, showing them texts I'd sent venting about normal teenage stuff, but edited to look seriously disturbing. I caught them looking at me differently, until I showed them the actual conversation. My birthday dinner became her supervillain origin story. She showed up uninvited wearing the exact dress my mom gave me last Christmas, carrying a cake that said, happy birthday to us, like we were twins separated at birth. Finally, my mom saw the light a bit, and agreed she shouldn't be there. When we asked her to leave, she went nuclear. Turns out she'd been recording us for months, creating edited videos of us all. It showed all of us as a family, only every picture of me was replaced to be Aubrey, badly edited in. She sent these to our entire extended family, created fake emails showing I wanted my own brother gone, forged letters with my signature that were beyond cruel. When my dad ran into her at Kroger and told her to stop, she screamed assault louder than a car alarm at 3 a.m. Then she broke into our house 2 weeks later, standing in our kitchen at midnight like a sleep paralysis demon. She said if we abandoned her, she couldn't protect us from dangers she'd clearly imagined. We called the cops, but when they got there, she spun the entire story. She'd already told her mom we were grooming her, sparking an investigation that made our lives spicier than a Carolina Reaper challenge. CPS interviews dragged on for 3 months, causing work drama for my dad. Our neighbors started looking at us like we were on a true crime podcast. Aubrey got a restraining order and mandatory therapy. Last I heard through the gossip vine, she'd latched onto a new family at her therapy group, already calling someone else's mom about their daughter's concerning behavior. Some hermit crabs never stop looking for a new shell. My family's closer now, trauma bonded like survivors of a really weird natural disaster. Noah still has nightmares, won't let anyone borrow anything. We changed our locks, our numbers, and our family motto to, blood is thicker than water, but not thicker than a restraining order. The next year, Noah got a birthday card. No return address, no postmark. Inside was written, miss you, little brother. Real sisters are forever. Don't forget that the restraining order expires in 6 months. Love, Aubrey. Things only got crazier from there. I found Noah in his room clutching the card, tears streaming down his face. His small body shook as he held it out to me. The handwriting was unmistakably Aubrey's, those perfectly formed letters she'd practiced copying from mine. I grabbed the card and marched downstairs where mom and dad were having their evening tea. Mom's face went pale when she read it. She immediately reached for her phone while dad snatched the card from her hands. They started arguing before I even sat down. Mom insisted we call the police immediately. Dad kept shaking his head, saying we were overreacting to a simple birthday card. Their voices rose with each exchange, mom's hands trembling as she dialed, dad's jaw clenching as he paced the kitchen. I couldn't take their bickering anymore. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Aubrey's old number, my fingers shaking with anger. The response came within seconds, making my blood run cold. Her words felt like ice water down my spine. I showed my parents the screen, and even dad stopped pacing. Mom's face crumpled as she admitted something she'd been hiding. The hang-up calls at her office started right after we got the restraining order, every day at 2:47 p.m., like clockwork. Dad tried to rationalize it, suggesting it could be telemarketers or a glitch in the phone system. Mom's expression told us she knew better. Ben texted me later that evening. His sister had spotted Aubrey at Walmart buying hair dye and colored contacts. The description made my stomach turn. She'd looked lost, he said, wandering the aisles like a ghost. I wondered what color she was trying to become this time. We attempted a family meeting the next morning. It devolved into chaos within minutes. Dad wanted to ignore everything and hope it went away. Mom was already researching moving companies on her laptop. I slammed my hand on the table, insisting we fight back. Noah just sat there, smaller than I'd ever seen him, whispering that he wanted it all to stop. We were 4 people in the same room, but we might as well have been on different planets. The compromise felt hollow. Dad agreed to install a security security camera, calling around to different companies. The installer who came out mentioned they were back-ordered on the newer models due to high demand in our area. He offered us an older model that would work just fine. We took it. I ran into Aubrey's mom at the grocery store 3 days later. She looked like she'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen her. I recognized her from when she'd come to our house after the restraining order was filed, apologizing through tears for her daughter's behavior. This time, she broke down completely in the cereal aisle, mascara running down her cheeks as she told me Aubrey had stopped taking her medication. She grabbed my arm with desperate fingers, begging me to talk to Aubrey just once. Maybe it would help her move on, she said. Maybe hearing from me would give her closure. I pulled away, my skin crawling where she'd touched me. Her desperation felt like another trap. Emma and I met for coffee that weekend. She stirred her latte thoughtfully before admitting she felt bad for Aubrey. Her words stung more than I expected. She wondered if we'd been too harsh, if someone that clearly mentally ill deserved more compassion. I wanted to shake her, to make her understand what it felt like to have someone try to steal your life. Dad's sister called during dinner. She sounded confused and concerned. Aubrey had sent her a LinkedIn request with a message about job opportunities near family. Dad's fork clattered to his plate. His sister lived 3 states away. How did Aubrey even know about her? The tablet discovery happened by accident. I was looking for Christmas decorations in the garage when I found Noah's old tablet wedged behind a box. It had been missing since Aubrey's tutoring days. My hands shook as I powered it on. The Instagram account was still logged in, filled with hundreds of photos of Noah during their sessions. Pictures of him concentrating on math problems, eating snacks, even one of him napping on the couch. Each photo had a caption like, "My sweet little brother," or "Growing up so fast." The school counselor's call came the next Monday. She spoke carefully, professionally, but I could hear the concern in her voice. A young woman had been inquiring about volunteer opportunities at Noah's school, specifically asking about programs where she could work with children who might benefit from additional tutoring support. I wonder what Aubrey's really thinking as she carefully times those 2:47 p.m. calls. There's something oddly specific about that timing that makes me curious about her actual state of mind right now. She'd mentioned wanting to make amends for past mistakes. Dad finally started taking things seriously when his coworker mentioned the receptionist application. Aubrey had applied for the front desk position at his office, listing impressive qualifications and glowing references. The coworker thought Dad might want to put in a good word for such a dedicated young woman. Dad realized she'd known his work schedule all along. I found my old journal while cleaning my room. The entry from 2 years ago made me sick. I'd written about how Aubrey was getting weird, but Mom loved her so much that I felt guilty saying anything. The words stared back at me, evidence of all the warning signs I'd ignored. The Instagram account appeared overnight. Concerned citizen of Riverside started posting about child neglect in our neighborhood. The photos were blurry, but unmistakably of Noah walking to school, playing in the yard, sitting in his bedroom window. Each post questioned why such a young child was left unsupervised so often. My shift manager at the coffee shop pulled me aside during a busy morning rush. Someone had called claiming to be my mom, saying I was having a mental health emergency and needed immediate time off. The manager had found it suspicious since my mom had just been in the day before, acting completely normal. The family therapist my parents found came highly recommended. She listened to our story with a neutral expression, taking notes on her yellow pad. Her suggestion made my jaw drop. She thought Aubrey might be trauma bonding and suggested that compassion, not punishment, might be the answer. I watched my parents' faces soften at her words and wanted to scream. I couldn't sleep that night. I drove past Aubrey's mom's apartment, the address burned into my memory from the restraining order paperwork. Through a lit window on the second floor, I could see Aubrey's silhouette. She stood perfectly still, staring at what looked like a wall covered in photos. I couldn't make out the images from the street, but I didn't need to. Ben broke up with me over text. The message was long, apologetic, but firm. The drama was too much. His parents thought my family attracted problems. He needed to focus on his senior year without all this stress. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Aubrey had cost me another piece of my normal life. Mom's book club friend approached her at the library. She mentioned that someone named Aubrey had joined their Facebook group, asking lots of questions about supporting families going through custody disputes. She'd seemed very knowledgeable about family law and children's rights. Mom's hands shook as she checked out her books. I started noticing a pattern in Aubrey's contacts. She reached out to every distant relative, family friend, and acquaintance during their work hours. Always professional, always concerned, always planting seeds of doubt about our family's stability. She was building a network of sympathizers, one LinkedIn message at a time. The text from Melissa came out of nowhere. I didn't recognize the number, but her message was clear. She knew things but couldn't get involved. She mentioned that Aubrey knew where she lived. The fear in those few words was palpable. I met Melissa at a gas station on the other side of town. She kept looking over her shoulder, keys clutched between her fingers. She spoke quickly, telling me about Aubrey's habit of practicing conversations in the mirror for hours. Every interaction rehearsed until it was perfect. Every emotional response calculated for maximum impact. We were still talking when Aubrey's car pulled into the gas station. Melissa's face went white. She practically dove into her car, tires squealing as she peeled out of the parking lot. In her panic, she dropped a receipt with a phone number scrawled on it. I pocketed it quickly as Aubrey walked past, her eyes locked on mine, a small smile playing at her lips. Noah's teacher caught me during pickup the next day. She mentioned that a very put-together young woman had been asking detailed questions about Noah's academic progress at the parent-teacher conferences. She'd claimed to be a family friend interested in providing additional tutoring support. The teacher had found it odd since we'd never mentioned needing help. The Froyo shop where my friends hung out every Friday became Aubrey's next strategic move. I discovered this when Emma texted me a photo of Aubrey behind the counter, wearing the bright pink uniform and serving my friends with that practiced smile. My stomach dropped as I realized she'd positioned herself perfectly to monitor my social life. I confronted the manager the next morning. He shrugged, explaining that Aubrey had excellent references and seemed eager to work weekend shifts. The way he described her enthusiasm made my skin crawl. She'd specifically requested Friday and Saturday evenings, knowing exactly when my friends would be there. Emma called me that night, her voice uncertain. She mentioned how normal Aubrey seemed at work, how she asked about me with what appeared to be genuine concern. Half our friend group now thought I was overreacting. They saw a sad girl trying to rebuild her life, not the calculated predator I knew her to be. Melissa finally called from a blocked number while I was doing homework. Her voice shook as she revealed something that made everything click into place. During middle school, her family had briefly fostered Aubrey for 3 weeks. Something had happened that ended the placement abruptly. Melissa wouldn't give details, but the fear in her voice told me enough. Noah started sleeping in our parents' room after a friend friend request appeared on his gaming account. The username was Mr. Whiskers, the name of his hamster that had died 2 years ago. Only family members knew about that pet. The precision of Aubrey's psychological attacks left us all rattled. I spent hours screenshotting everything, creating a digital folder of evidence. My phone slipped from my hands while I was organizing files, hitting the concrete steps outside school. The screen shattered, and when I got it repaired, the technician informed me that the internal damage had corrupted most of my data. Months of evidence gone. The police officer who took our report seemed sympathetic but explained the harsh reality. Without a new incident, the expired restraining order meant nothing. He suggested we document everything going forward, but his tone implied he'd seen too many cases like ours go nowhere. Emma agreed to help monitor Aubrey at the Froyo shop, though she admitted she still thought I should try talking to her once. Her divided loyalty stung, but I needed eyes on Aubrey. I couldn't be everywhere at once. I started following Aubrey after her shifts, keeping my distance but watching her patterns. One night, she drove to our old house and parked across the street. She sat there for 2 hours, just staring at the home where everything had started. I documented it from my car, my hands shaking as I took photos. Melissa's mom called me the next day, her voice sharp with anger. She demanded I stop dragging her daughter into my drama. She insisted that Aubrey had suffered enough, that we needed to leave her alone. The conversation ended with her threatening to call my parents if I contacted Melissa again. I made the decision to post a vague warning on social media, hoping to rally support. The responses split down the middle. Half my followers offered sympathy and shared their own stalker stories. The other half accused me of bullying a mentally ill girl who was just trying to move on. The comments section became a battlefield I hadn't anticipated. 4 months remained until the restraining order officially expired. Aubrey started posting old photos on Instagram, tagging my family members. The images showed happier times, her helping Noah with homework, baking cookies with mom, watching movies on our couch. The caption read simply, "Missing my chosen family." A mutual acquaintance from school approached me in the hallway. She mentioned that Aubrey had been telling people she'd been getting help, that she wanted to apologize, but my family wouldn't let her. The narrative Aubrey was crafting painted us as the cruel ones, her as the victim seeking redemption. Even mom started wavering. Over dinner, she wondered aloud if we should give Aubrey one supervised conversation to achieve closure. She suggested meeting at a therapist's office, somewhere safe and controlled. I pushed my plate away, my appetite gone. I explained that Aubrey would just use it as an opportunity to get closer, to manipulate the situation. Mom nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Noah's art teacher pulled me aside after school. She showed me a disturbing drawing Noah had made during free time. The picture depicted our house with a shadow figure standing at every window, watching. When asked about it, Noah had simply said it was the girl who watches. Melissa's family story emerged through a series of late-night texts from a burner phone. Aubrey had recently reconnected with them, attempting to convince their elderly grandmother that she was a neglected relative. She'd researched their family tree, learned about a cousin who'd died young, and tried to claim she was that cousin's daughter. The goal was to get the inheritance changed. Only Melissa's mom catching her with forged documents had stopped the plan. I realized with growing dread that only Noah and I still fully believed Aubrey was dangerous. Our parents wavered between concern and thinking we were overreacting. Extended family members whispered about us being paranoid, creating drama where none existed. Our united front was crumbling. The security camera caught movement at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. A figure approached our windows, testing each one methodically. The image was too grainy for positive identification, but I knew that silhouette. I knew those movements. Aubrey's playing chess while everyone else thinks it's checkers. The Mr. Whiskers username targeting Noah shows she's weaponizing memories like a psychological sniper with perfect aim. Dad reviewed the footage and admitted it was concerning, but without a clear face, we had nothing actionable. Emma chose a college across the country partly, she admitted, to get away from all this drama. Her acceptance letter to Portland State should have been cause for celebration. Instead, she confessed that the situation with Aubrey had influenced her decision. Another friendship casualty in Aubrey's war against my family. My anxiety manifested in ways I couldn't control. I checked locks obsessively, sometimes getting up multiple times at night to verify they were secure. The doorbell made me jump. Unknown numbers sent my heart racing. My parents started looking at me with concern, wondering if I was becoming paranoid. The irony wasn't lost on me. Aubrey was making me look unstable, just as she'd planned. A moment of darkness crept into my thoughts. I found myself planning to plant substances in Aubrey's car to give the police a reason to arrest her. I sat in the parking lot of the Froyo shop, a bag of pills I'd bought from a sketchy senior in my pocket. But as I watched her through the window, serving customers with that fake smile, I realized what I was becoming. I drove home and flushed the pills, disgusted with myself. The coffee shop encounter happened on a rainy Thursday. I was grabbing my usual order when Aubrey appeared beside me. She spoke calmly, her voice steady and controlled. She told me she knew I hated her, but that she'd always loved my family. The way she said it, so matter-of-fact, made my blood run cold. I left without my coffee. Melissa provided old text messages through an encrypted app. The messages showed how Aubrey had studied my family for months before first approaching us. She'd researched our routines, our interests, our weaknesses. Every interaction had been calculated, planned to the smallest detail. The evidence was damning but felt hollow, proof of past manipulation when we needed evidence of current threats. Aubrey's job references started calling mom about concerning behavior they'd witnessed, but the stories were twisted versions of reality, painting me as unstable and aggressive. One claimed I'd threatened Aubrey at work. Another said I'd been following her, harassing her. Mom defended me, but I could see the seed of doubt being planted. A church friend mentioned to Dad that Aubrey had been volunteering at the homeless shelter. She talked about redemption constantly, about making amends for past mistakes. The congregation found her story inspiring, a young woman overcoming mental health challenges and family rejection. Our truth couldn't compete with her carefully crafted narrative of redemption. The only concrete support came from Melissa, who agreed to document Aubrey's past patterns if I kept her name out of it. She created a timeline showing Aubrey's previous family fixations, the escalating behaviors, the inevitable implosions. It painted a clear picture of someone who wouldn't stop until forced. Aubrey's coworker at the Froyo shop reached out to me through Facebook. She'd overheard Aubrey telling another employee that she dreamed about my family every night. The intensity of her confession, the coworker said, had been deeply unsettling. Finally, I had a third-party witness to Aubrey's ongoing obsession. Community sympathy for Aubrey grew as she maintained her public persona of a reformed, misunderstood young woman. She started getting invited to neighborhood events, the same gatherings my family attended. We'd have to see her at the summer block party, the fall festival, the holiday cookie exchange. Our safe spaces were shrinking. Dad discovered Aubrey's latest latest infiltration attempt when his mother called, confused. Aubrey had been showing up at the senior center where Grandma volunteered, offering to help with reading programs. She'd started calling her Grandma and bringing her homemade cookies. Dad's mother, sharper than her 78 years suggested, played along while staying suspicious. She reported back to us weekly, becoming our unexpected spy. I made the difficult decision to change Noah's school without telling extended family members. The information leaks had to stop. Only our immediate family knew about the transfer. Noah adjusted well, but I could see the toll of constant vigilance wearing on him. Our protective unit had shrunk to just 3 people: Noah, myself, and surprisingly, Dad's mother. She'd never fully trusted Aubrey, she told us. Something about her smile being too practiced and her eyes too hungry when she looked at family photos. Grandma became our fiercest advocate when others doubted. Aubrey's attempts to volunteer at Noah's new school failed only because of routine background check timing. She'd applied just days after we'd transferred him. The precision of her knowledge about our movements remained terrifying. Someone was still feeding her information. At a support group meeting, Aubrey's mom had a complete breakdown. Another member called me afterward, sharing what she'd heard. Aubrey's mom admitted her daughter refused medication, that she was scared of her own child. The confession validated everything we'd been experiencing, but it came from someone with no credibility in our community. The neighborhood split into 2 camps: those who thought Aubrey deserved a second chance, and those who recognized the ongoing threat. The division created tension at every community gathering. Whispered conversations stopped when we approached. Invitations to casual get-togethers dried up. Multiple witnesses placed Aubrey near our home on different nights, but as the police repeatedly reminded us, walking on a public sidewalk wasn't illegal. She knew exactly how far she could push without crossing legal lines. Every appearance was calculated to remain just within the law. 2 months before the restraining order expired, I considered dropping out of senior year to protect Noah full-time. The thought of leaving him vulnerable while I sat in classes made me sick. My parents talked me out of it, but the fact that I'd seriously considered it showed how desperate we'd become. Aubrey's latest foster placement ended abruptly when the family discovered a shrine to my family in her closet. Photos printed from social media covered the walls. Items that had gone missing from our house over the years were carefully displayed. The family contacted us, shaken by what they'd found, but again, no crime had been committed. Noah's therapy sessions revealed the depth of his trauma. He refused to talk about Aubrey directly, instead communicating through drawings. The therapist noted concerning patterns of hypervigilance, anxiety, and fear. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to live like this, she told us, her professional composure cracking. The mall encounter happened on a crowded Saturday. I was shopping for school supplies when I noticed Aubrey following me at a distance. She maintained perfect legal spacing, never approaching or speaking, just following. For an hour, she shadowed me through stores, up escalators, around corners. Security couldn't do anything. She was just another shopper. Dad's mother revealed more about her observations of Aubrey during their senior center encounters. She described how Aubrey's mask would slip when she thought no one was watching, the hungry expression when looking at family photos, the practiced nature of every gesture, the way she gathered information through seemingly innocent questions. Grandma had been documenting everything in her own way. I compiled all our evidence into a comprehensive file, but reviewing it revealed a depressing truth. Most of it showed Aubrey being sad, trying to make amends, seeking redemption. Without context, we looked like the aggressors, the family refusing to forgive a troubled young woman. The narrative she'd crafted was brilliant in its simplicity. Aubrey moved back with her mother after the failed foster placements. Neighbors reported screaming matches at all hours, police visits for domestic disturbances. The chaos of that household explained so much about Aubrey's fixation on stable families, but understanding didn't equal sympathy anymore. The birthday flowers arrived at Noah's school despite our strict instructions. The card read, "Love your sister," and Noah had a complete panic attack in the main office. His teacher had to carry him out while he hyperventilated. The school finally understood the severity of our situation, implementing strict pickup protocols and visitor restrictions. For the first time in months, we had a small victory. The school took our threat seriously, creating multiple safeguards to protect Noah. It felt like a tiny beacon of hope in an increasingly dark situation, but I knew Aubrey would adapt, find new ways to insert herself into our lives. The countdown to the restraining order's expiration continued, each day bringing us closer to whatever she had planned. Aubrey's psychiatrist called our house at dawn, her voice tight with professional concern. She explained that Aubrey had been decompensating rapidly, fixated on what she called their upcoming reunion when the restraining order expired. The doctor's warning sent chills through me as she described Aubrey's detailed plans, documented in session notes she'd managed to access before Aubrey checked herself out. Strange things started appearing around our property. Mom found her missing earrings on the back porch, arranged in a heart shape. Dad discovered his college sweatshirt folded neatly on his car windshield. Noah's favorite action figure from years ago materialized on his bedroom windowsill. Each item had vanished during Aubrey's time with us, now returned like breadcrumbs leading to something worse. The timing made everything circumstantial. Our lawyer explained that the items could have been placed during the brief window when the restraining order had expired before renewal. Without proof of recent trespassing, we had nothing. Aubrey's psychiatrist calling at dawn about decompensation and detailed plans sounds pretty serious, but why would a doctor share patient info like that? The missing items showing up arranged in patterns is really strange. Who keeps stolen earrings and toys for years just to return them like this? The legal system's limitations felt like walls closing in. Mom and Dad finally presented a united front, but I could see the cracks in their marriage. They moved through the house like roommates, coordinating Noah's schedule with minimal interaction. Their whispered arguments stopped when I entered rooms. The stress had carved valleys between them that might never fully heal. Aubrey's GoFundMe page went viral in our community. Her story of being rejected by a wealthy family who'd promised to help her resonated with people struggling financially. She raised $3,000 in 2 weeks, complete with sympathetic comments about privileged families discarding troubled youth. Several of my classmates shared it, adding their own criticism of my family's heartlessness. Emma's final text arrived while I was studying for finals. She apologized but explained she couldn't risk association with the drama anymore. Her parents had threatened to cut off college funding if she maintained contact with me. I stared at her name in my contacts for 20 minutes before deleting it, another casualty in Aubrey's systematic destruction of my support system. Senior year became a gauntlet of isolation. I ate lunch in empty classrooms, avoided hallways between classes, and left immediately after final bell. The whispers followed me everywhere. Some students thought I was paranoid. Others believed believed I was a bully. None of them understood the suffocating reality of being hunted by someone who appeared completely normal to everyone else. Against my parents' wishes, I started documenting everything on TikTok. My first video explained our situation in simple terms, showing the birthday card, the security footage stills, the returned items. The comments exploded within hours. Half accused me of exploiting a mentally ill person for attention. The other half shared their own stalking experiences, finally making me feel less alone. The restraining order expiration date arrived with the weight of a funeral. That morning, Noah clung to me at breakfast, his small fingers wrapped around my wrist like a lifeline. Mom called in sick to work. Dad installed a new deadbolt on the front door, his hands steady but his face drawn. We all knew something was coming. Aubrey appeared at Noah's school during afternoon pickup. The secretary called me instead of our parents, following the protocol we'd established. I broke every speed limit getting there, my hands slick on the steering wheel. Through the office window, I could see Aubrey arguing with security, waving a forged note claiming she was authorized to pick up her brother. She looked different. Her hair was dyed to match mine, colored contacts turning her eyes hazel like Noah's. She'd lost weight, her cheekbones sharp under skin stretched too thin, but her smile remained perfect, practiced, terrifying in its normalcy, as she insisted Noah needed to come home with his real sister. Aubrey's revelation chilled everyone in the office. She explained calmly that she'd been staying with various neighborhood sympathizers, moving between houses every few days. She'd never left our area, never stopped watching, just waited for her chance. The secretary's face went pale as Aubrey listed details about Noah's schedule that only family should know. Grandma arrived as our emergency contact, her cane clicking against the linoleum as she positioned herself between Aubrey and the door. At 78, she stood like a guardian, her voice steady as she told Aubrey she'd have to go through her first. The confrontation drew other parents, teachers, and staff, all witnessing Aubrey's mask finally cracking. I made a split-second decision. Instead of just calling 911, I put my phone on speaker and started recording simultaneously. The dispatcher's questions echoed through the office as Aubrey's composure shattered. She ranted about her stolen family, how we'd abandoned her, how Noah needed his real sister. Every word recorded, every witness filming on their own phones. Aubrey lunged when she saw us heading for the exit. She managed to reach through the car window, her fingers grazing Noah's arm before security pulled her back. Noah's scream pierced the air, primal and terrified. 3 security guards restrained her as she fought to get to him, still calling him her brother, still insisting we were stealing him from her. The police arrived to find multiple videos from different angles, all showing the same thing. Aubrey attempting to physically take a child who was clearly terrified of her. The evidence was undeniable, uneditable, witnessed by dozens. Even her most devoted supporters couldn't explain away footage of her trying to grab a screaming 7-year-old. This time, the arrest stuck. Attempted kidnapping with multiple witnesses and video evidence from various sources. The prosecutor explained that her previous pattern of behavior, combined with the psychiatric warnings and the physical attempt, created an airtight case. No judge would grant bail to someone who demonstrated such a clear threat to a child. The evaluation at the state facility revealed what we'd always known: persistent delusional disorder with fixation on victim family. The psychiatrist explained that Aubrey genuinely believed we were her family, that we'd been stolen from her. In her mind, she was the victim trying to reclaim what was rightfully hers. The diagnosis meant long-term institutional treatment, not a simple jail sentence. Noah's recovery happened in small increments. First, he slept in his own bed again. Then he started playing in the backyard. Eventually, he even accepted a playdate invitation. The school maintained their security protocols, understanding that healing didn't mean forgetting. His drawings shifted from shadow figures to normal kid stuff: superheroes, dinosaurs, spaceships. We attempted to start a support group for stalking victims, meeting in the community center on Tuesday evenings. Only 3 people showed up to the first meeting. 2 were dealing with ex-partners. 1 was being harassed by a neighbor. Nobody else saw psychological stalking as real enough to need support. We met anyway, sharing strategies for documentation, legal resources, and mostly just understanding. I wrote my college essay about resilience, though I wanted to write about rage. The admissions counselors wanted triumph over adversity, not the messy truth that some victories feel like losses. I crafted beautiful paragraphs about learning to protect what matters, about family bonds strengthening under pressure. I didn't mention the friends lost, the trust shattered, the way I still check locks 3 times before bed. The news of Aubrey's transfer to a long-term facility came through our lawyer. Another family had surfaced, one she'd fixated on during a brief hospitalization 2 years before we met her. The pattern was identical: infiltration, obsession, escalation. They'd moved states to escape her. Knowing we weren't her first targets felt both validating and hollow. We'd survived, but so had they, and none of us had escaped unchanged. I sat in my dorm room 200 miles away, helping Noah with fractions over video call. He laughed at something silly, his face bright on my laptop screen, and for a moment he was just a kid doing homework. Mom texted updates about her therapy sessions. Dad sent photos of the new locks he'd installed. We were healing in fragments, each of us carrying pieces of what happened like shrapnel too deep to remove. The victory tasted like ash. Emma studied in Portland without me. Ben dated someone whose family had no drama. Our community remained divided between those who thought we'd overreacted and those who'd seen the videos. Trust in systems designed to protect us had shattered. We'd won, but the cost calculated in lost friendships, family fractures, and faith destroyed. But Noah laughed at my terrible math joke, and Mom's texts included emoji again, and Dad had started making weekend plans. We'd survived Aubrey's attempt to hollow out our lives and wear them like costumes. Not unscathed, the scars would always itch when it rained. Not the same. Innocence about human nature doesn't grow back. But we were still us. Still family, still choosing each other every day. Some predators don't hunt bodies, they hunt belonging, stalking families instead of individuals, trying to steal connections they can't create. The only defense is refusing to let them make you less human in the fight to stay safe. We'd learn to be vigilant without being cruel, protective without being paranoid. It was a balance we'd have to maintain forever, knowing that somewhere, Aubrey was probably practicing conversations in a mirror, preparing for her next family. But it wouldn't be us, not again, not ever. Alright, closing the book on this one. Appreciate you letting me be the snarky voice in your ear through all the chaos. See you around for whatever disaster comes next.